Mr. Davies, a round man with a landlord's sharp eye, looked over the empty apartment. It was plain, nothing special except for one strange thing. On the wall across from the door, a big fancy mirror hung crooked. A jagged crack split its shiny surface in two. Emma, the woman who lived there before, had disappeared. She was quiet and kept to herself. Her disappearance was strange, but Mr. Davies was busy getting the apartment ready for a new renter. Mr. Davies, a practical man, wasn't worried. He rubbed his rough thumb over the crack in the mirror. It was deep, almost scary in its jagged shape. A shiver went down his spine, a quick feeling he ignored. He didn't have time for silly superstitions. He had an apartment to rent. Mr. Davies decided the mirror, even with the crack, could stay. It looked kind of old-fashioned, he thought. He didn't know the cracked mirror held secrets. It whispered stories of the missing Emma, stories that would soon become his own. Days turned into nights. The apartment stayed empty, but the cracked mirror seemed to come alive. Mr. Davies found himself looking at it, his eyes stuck on its broken reflection. He noticed how the crack seemed to grow bigger in the dim light, like a giant mouth about to swallow the room. He heard whispers at night, quiet and unclear, coming from the corner where the mirror hung. He told himself it was the pipes, the wind, anything but the mirror. But he couldn't shake the creepy feeling that stuck to him. He started avoiding looking directly at the mirror, quickly glancing at its reflection in the shiny floor instead. The logical part of him laughed at his growing fear. It was just a mirror, a normal object, but deep down, a little seed of doubt had been planted. A doubt that whispered of hidden things and a darkness hiding just beneath the surface. One night, when Mr. Davies couldn't sleep, he woke up to a heavy silence. The city's usual sounds of sirens and cars were gone. It was strangely quiet. He sat up in bed, his heart thumping, and looked towards the door. That's when he saw her, a figure standing in his doorway, glowing faintly. It was Emma, her face pale and tired, her eyes wide with fear and blame. Mr. Davies froze, unable to breathe. He blinked, but she was still there. She took a step closer, reaching out to him. Her fingers seemed to grow longer, becoming bony and scary. He scrambled back against his bed, a choked scream escaping his lips. The figure stopped, its glowing form flickering. Then, with a sound like breaking glass, it vanished. He was left in pure terror, staring at the empty doorway. The next morning, 2 police officers were at his door. They were looking into Emma's disappearance. Mr. Davies, his voice shaky, told them about the night before, the figure in his doorway, the terrible fear. The officers looked at each other. One wrote notes in a small pad, while the other, Detective Miller, looked at Mr. Davies with a mix of doubt and worry. "Could you show us this mirror?" Detective Miller finally asked. They stood in front of the fancy mirror, its cracked surface showing their reflections. "We checked for fingerprints," Detective Miller said quietly, "and found something strange." He pointed to the crack. Where there had only been a jagged line, 2 small, delicate fingerprints now sat. They weren't Mr. Davies. A chill went down Mr. Davies' spine as he realized the truth. The mirror wasn't just reflecting, it was holding, and it was waiting for its next victim to get trapped inside, lost forever in the shiny, evil world behind the glass.